A report by the National Commission for Human Rights on the implementation of the COVID-19 pandemic guidelines shows that as the Rwandan government continues to take steps to combat the pandemic, it focuses on the protection of human rights. Sinyigaya Silas, the deputy chairperson of the National Commission for Human Rights, is among those following up this issue. We are mainly focusing on human rights. For instance, there are 2 men who were allegedly killed in Nyanza by a policeman on duty. We followed that up, and the suspect is now facing the judiciary that will determine what will be done. The other thing is people who kept saying they weren't allowed to move anyhow during the lockdown, which we followed up, and we found out that people were allowed to go out and look for essential services whenever they needed them. However, these measures do not prevent some of the international human rights organizations from alleging that Rwanda's efforts to contain the spread of the deadly coronavirus are at the expense of human rights. The executive secretary of the Rwanda Civil Society Platform has this to say. If these mistakes were not prosecuted, we would say that human rights are being violated. But we have found that the perpetrators have been brought to justice and prosecuted, which is a good step because the crime is legal and the perpetrator should be held accountable. If the crimes were not followed up, then we would say that human rights are being violated. He spoke this when he was addressing the issue of some soldiers who were being investigated for assaulting citizens. Some residents of Kigali also say that the measures put in place to prevent the COVID-19 pandemic spread are being complied with, and that those who break the set guidelines are held accountable, should not make it about violating their human rights. This has no way it affects one's human rights, because once these measures are not put in place, this pandemic will spread to everyone, which will be a problem for the country. It's the responsibility of those who arrest people that violate the COVID-19 prevention guidelines. Our government loves us and thinks about us. If the government hadn't thought about us, we would be like Italy or the US, where the pandemic has devastated them. That is why it implemented the lockdown before the situation got out of hand. The National Commission for Human Rights has issued a report stating that in collaboration with other agencies, they'll continue to monitor the overall implementation of human rights, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic.